It's Thursday night, back again for another big away days preview. Come on, let's go.
I get those goosebumps every time you come around, yeah. You ease my mind, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those comments, I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time. I need the Heimlich, throw that to the side, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around, when you throw that to the side, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. 713, could've 21 down riding. Why they on me? Why they on me? I'm flying, sipping low key. I'm sipping low key and flying. I get those goosebumps every time. I'm around, yeah. You ease my mind, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those comments, I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time. I need the Heimlich, throw that.
Here we go. Back again. Welcome to Loaded Mag, NUFC away days for the big match preview. Chelsea against Newcastle United at Stamford Bridge. The games come thick and fast at the moment, and we are here for it. And I've got the main man with me, Mr. Chris Hall. How you doing?
Good, mate. I'm absolutely shattered tonight, but still, can't miss away days. Loving away days. I'm really glad to have Charlie back on tonight as well. It'll be a good chat, I'm sure. And do you know what? I think it's fair to say it's quite an intriguing game on Monday night, because I could feasibly see it going any of three ways. And funnily enough, I think I said that last time when Charlie was on. I think I felt similar last time. Chelsea are so unpredictable, aren't they? Some weeks you see them and you think, like, they're going to kick into gear now. Because you look at the starting 11, they've got a fantastic starting 11, but for some reason, they've not been able to quite click and continue. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, Pete. And obviously, things are good in terms of Newcastle at the moment. So it'll be good to talk a little bit about Newcastle and also get into the lineups as well.
Definitely. We'll definitely get into the lineups, that's for sure. Welcome to everyone in the chat. Great to have you in there. Anne Thompson's already in. Yano's already in. Like Sir Jason Scott, Rich Joblin, Lisa's in the house. Even Daz is here. It must be away days. Daz is in the chat. Hope everyone is well. Munch and Connie are here as well. Tom Dixon, of course, is in there. He was in there with the question before we'd even gone live. We love it. Just click that like, and if you're new to the channel, come and subscribe to us. And we've got just one half of our round of guests tonight coming and joining us. Don's on his way, but we might as well bring Charlie out. And Charlie's in the house. He's in the green room ready to come and join us. So let's bring him in from the Blue Brother podcast. He's proper Chelsea. He's proper Chelsea. Let's bring in Charlie. How you doing, fella?
Yeah, not bad, lads. Good to be back on. Looking forward to getting stuck into it. Should be an intriguing game Monday night.
Definitely, mate.
Absolutely, mate.
Definitely. But look, I'm going to get into it because it's a question that a lot of fans outside of Chelsea have been asking, and probably inside of Chelsea have been asking. In your opinion, what is going on at Chelsea Football Club at this moment in time? And just before you answer that, we might as well bring in your tag team partner for this one, because he's just come into the green room and he's here. Greasy Don is in the house. How you doing, Don?
Big up, man. Big up, Pete. Obviously, big up, Charlie. Sorry, bro. First time meeting you. Can I just catch your name?
How you doing, mate? You okay?
Chris, yeah. Nice to meet you, my bro, man. But yeah, man, it should be a good show. It should be a good show, man. I'm sorry, I had some technical issues with my mic, so I just managed to fix it now. But yeah, it should be a good show. Should be a good show. A little bit of therapy for me and Charlie, man.
Well, the therapy starts now. This is why I wanted to bring you in, because I'll just ask Charlie the question. What is going on with Chelsea? Like, over $1 billion spent on players, a new manager that was brought in, Mauricio Pochettino, to be the guy to take you back to where you wanted to be. A new owner who's throwing money at the club, at players, at the establishment, the club as a whole, and it just seems to be going wrong every single step of the way. So, Charlie, talk to me. In your opinion, what's happening at the moment at Chelsea Football Club?
Mate, so I think it's an accumulation of poor decisions that have been made since this new ownership have come in. I think too many changes have been made way too quickly. In terms of the playing staff, like no Chelsea fans had any issue with the fact that we had a squad clear out. Like, that was well documented that we'd needed that for a number of years. But I think the big issue has been, and it's now clear to see, is that having got rid of kind of experienced, reliable players, we then brought in a load of players with a lot of potential, but who are massively unreliable and not too many match winners in there, which is then lending itself to the massive inconsistencies that we're experiencing this season. I don't think it helps that, in all the key positions in the football club right now, we've got people that are not good enough and are massively underperforming. The ownership don't understand a lot about football. That's fine. But if that's the case, make sure you then appoint the best in class in sporting directors and things like that. That's what we were promised when this owner's come in. We're going to see the best in class. But then we've got two sporting directors that are anything but the best in class, who have put a squad together that, is not ready to compete in the Premier League and is not ready to hit the goals that were set at the start of the season, whether you believe Champions League football was the goal or not. That's what the owners believe that this squad was capable of doing. That's a worry in itself because, I got excited about all the signings and that and thought, we'll definitely come top 5. But when when the reality sets in, like that's totally unrealistic. We've not been helped by injuries. Ultimately, I think a lot of these players that have come in, there are some good players there. Make no mistake about it. Cole Palmer's, your Gustos, etc. There are good footballers there. But I think it's also clear that there's a number of players that have come in that aren't good enough to play for the football club. And they're going to have to be moved on already. And look, in regards to the manager, I think he's not done as well as people expected him to do. I think that's absolutely clear. I do have a little bit of sympathy for him in terms of the amount of injuries we've had. I have sympathy for him a little bit in terms of the situation he's found himself in. I get it. He knew what he was signing up for. And I absolutely don't think it's all his fault. However, there are certain things that he's doing that are not helping him. One, during his time here, he's made no effort to connect with the fan base whatsoever. He doesn't come to applaud the fans after any game at all. And look, I get it. Different managers do different things, but just something as small as that goes somewhere to building some rapport and a bit of a relationship with the fans. He's not doing that. So that's a big problem. His in-game management, putting it lightly, is shocking. He's reactive all the time rather than proactive. And yeah, the playing players out of position. I get that to a degree in terms of we've had injuries, but there's also been situations where we haven't had that problem and he's been playing players out of position, which is not helping the team. The drop-off in first half performances to second half performances across the season so far is unforgivable. And look, you could say that, the players haven't got the experience or the know-how of how to see a game out. I refuse to believe over a course of a season or 3/4 of a season like we've seen so far, these players don't understand how to see out a game in the second half or don't understand how to perform well in two halves of football. Something is going fundamentally wrong at half-time in the dressing room with whatever's being said, because too many times we come out and we've got no idea what we're doing. There was a stat doing the rounds the other day that we're about 7 points off the top of the table if the season was just based on the first half, and we're outside the relegation zone on goal difference based on second half performances. So that in itself is a problem. So for me, mate, I just think it's a combination of too many changes too quickly, too many people learning on the job in key positions, and ultimately from top to bottom, everyone not good enough. And that's why we're finding ourselves in the mess that we're in.
Don, you obviously you've heard Charlie's thoughts on it. Are you of the same mindset? Because I know that sometimes Chelsea fans are split on a lot of these opinions with regards to the club. Some are like, you know, back the process and they'll get it right eventually. Some are saying, like Charlie, they've come in, they've been inexperienced, they've just not done what they needed to do. Like, where do you sit with this?
Yeah, I think Charlie's covered a lot of what I was going to say, to be honest. I think there's not one single person to blame for this issue right now. It's top to bottom. Like I said, the owners, they've come in with a lot of ambition. I think the execution's been poor on that front because no one can turn around and say Chelsea aren't ambitious. I think everyone can see that the money that we're spending shows that these guys are willing to spend money, but they've spent it incorrectly, you know. The obsession with the young players, you know, constantly buying young players. If you go back to the summer window, it was hard to find experience in key areas. A lot of the targets we were after at the time were quite young. Like Caicedo is a young player. Do you know what I mean? Palmer, he's a young player as well. Do you know what I'm saying? So I have to look at that as well. The market at the time wasn't full of all this experience, you know, experienced players. I think we were looking at Dybala at one point. He's got a lot of experience, but I was a little bit skeptical only because of his injury record. But I was open to it. I did say if Nkunku gets injured, he can hopefully step in because he's a good finisher, and he's a proven goal scorer. Do you know what I mean? But I think Charlie's covered a lot of it, man. But for me, this season, I think a lot of the blame goes on Poch. You know, I sympathize with him in terms of the injuries, right? I understand all of that, but honestly, bro, even with injuries, we've got one game a week. We've been blessed with the amount of players that we've got, right? We've still got a lot of players in this team, right? And time again, this guy decides to kill these players. He doesn't know how to get the best out of them, right? This is him here. This is the fraud. He catfished me. This guy. Yeah? He catfished me because, I was advocating for this guy. A lot of Chelsea fans did not want Pochettino because he's ex-Spurs. You know what I mean? He's a bottler. What's he going to do here? I said, bro, we've got a young team right now. Nagelsmann, I think, in my opinion, is quite overrated. You know, Enrique, I was looking at him. I said, not too sure about him as well. He's mainly worked with experience, you know. Mourinho, hell no. I think his time's done at Chelsea. You know, I think it's time for him to now go into international football. So, in terms of the managers that were on the shortlist, he was the best option, right? In terms of just looking at it on paper, because he's developed a bunch of young players at Southampton. You know, the Luke Shaws, Nathaniel Kleins. If you remember, he had Lallana, he had Jay Rodriguez, these guys. Then he went on to Spurs, Dele Alli, Eriksson, you know, Harry Kane. All these guys were young and they were playing good football at the time. So I was like, listen, there's no way he's gonna come in here and do a bad job because he's used to working with young players. But since he's been here, the guy has lacked bravery, you know, refusing to play Ian Maatsen at left back, playing Levi Colwill there every single week, seeing him getting cooked week after week. Everyone here can see we're not coaches. People will try and shut you down and say, oh, you're not a coach. Why don't you go and coach the team yet? We've watched a lot of football for a number of years. We're not casuals, right? And if you can see that a centre-back isn't comfortable in their position, playing at fullback, right? Dan Burn, for example, a lot of the time, that guy gets cooked. Do you know what I'm saying? Because he's getting played out of position, right? We can all see it. But he could persist with it. Playing Ben Chilwell at left wing. You know, these are just decisions which I can't defend. You know what I'm saying? And when people at the start of the season were saying, get him out already in September, for me, I said it's a little bit too early. I'm not saying Poch out. I'm saying Poch fix up because there's a lot of time to go in the season. But we're now in March and we're sitting in 11th after spending all this money. It is not acceptable. It is not acceptable. And for me, he comes out and says so many excuses. I haven't heard Pochettino come out once and you know, hold any accountability. It's always the injuries. We're not the only team with injuries. Look how many injuries you guys have had, Pete and Chris. You know what I'm saying? Look how many injuries Man United have had. You know what I mean? To key players, right? Everyone gets on with it. That's our context, but every team's got their own context. You got to get on with it, right? And like I said, we've been blessed. We've got one game a week. So what are you doing in the training all week? Because I don't see any patterns during the games. You know, I don't see any consistent breaking down of low blocks. You know what I'm saying? All I see from this guy is consistent bad mistakes, bad in-game management, and bad lineups. You know what I'm saying? He finds a solution. He goes away from it the next week. You know what I mean? He'll find something that works. And the morning before, it's like, oh, I'm going to do this tomorrow. He changes it. You know, and these guys are young players. How do you expect them to play well and develop together if they're all young and constantly they're being told to do this? Are you going to play here today? You're going to play here today? You're going to do this today? It doesn't make any sense to me. So, end of the day, he knows what he walked into. I don't feel any pity for him when he goes on about the experience because he understood the direction these lot were going in. I don't feel any pity whatsoever. He could have turned it down because Enrique, I think he turned down the job. Nagelsmann turned down the job. He could have said, no, this ain't going to be enough for me. I need a little bit of experience. But he said, yeah, I can take the job. You know what I'm saying? And he has not been good enough. And then the players in front of goal. In front of goal, these guys are shocking in front of goal. Absolutely shocking. I've never seen so many players miss easy chances that should be buried at this level, in my opinion, you know? So on that front, I can't blame Poch for the missed chances. But what I can blame him for is the lack of patterns, the lack of a style of play. You know, we attack in... When we score goals, it's like an individual brilliance. It's not really anything that's being built consistently. I don't really see any sustained attacks. Do you know what I'm saying? So for me, a lot of the blame this season is on Poch. Yes, I know top to bottom, they should have brought in more experience. But at the end of the day, the reality is we've got young players. We can't run away from that, right? And he's been brought in to use them well, and he hasn't been able to do that. So we've got to move in from. We've got to move on from him. We've got to move on from him, man.
Boys, I like it. Honesty, scathing reports on your club. But look, this is, hey, it's all, at the end of the day, like for me and Chris at Newcastle, it's our clubs. We have that right to have that opinion. We watch the football every single week. And so, yeah, now I hear it. I hear it. Chris, I'm going to come to you before we move to Newcastle. The quite scathing reports from the Chelsea boys. What have you made of Chelsea this season?
Do you know what? I agree with Don and Charlie. Like I've been a little bit disappointed with Chelsea this season because Don highlighted it before. No European football. So I was expecting Chelsea to really kind of make a big impact, particularly on the top six. But it kind of just feels like same as before. With last season, and I'm just really surprised that Chelsea haven't kicked on. And it was interesting when Don was talking about the lineups and the formations, because obviously I don't watch Chelsea week in, week out, but on, the odd occasion when I do watch them, or, I stick the telly on, I do look at some of the lineup and some players in certain positions, and I think, hang on, you've got players on the bench there who naturally play that position, but you're playing somebody else. And, we've done it ourselves, and for me, you start to wonder whether the manager's losing the grip, not just to the dressing room, but also with his job, where he's just getting a bit desperate and he's just trying to just, fit round, square pegs and round holes. And that is kind of what it feels like. I mean, when Poch came in, Pete, you'll remember, Poch was on our lips, wasn't it? Like we were saying, Pochettino would be a good manager, and obviously he ended up going to Chelsea, and we were a bit like, never mind kind of thing. But he's not had the impact. He's not had the impact that I think most of us thought. And I'm sure most Chelsea fans will admit when he first came in, there will have been some who obviously, with the Tottenham links weren't happy. But there was no doubting when he came in, he, on paper, his CV looked pretty decent, and he done a decent job at PSG, albeit it didn't quite work out. But he kind of felt that this was a good move for him, coming back to the Premier League. He'd done a great job at Southampton. He'd done a really good job at Tottenham. I don't know. I don't know what the future holds for Pochettino, because it kind of feels to me, and I don't know whether Don and Charlie agree with this, but it feels like he's gone too far down the line. It will be interesting to see if the ownership stick with him and go, right, let's just wipe this season, but next season we need results. But the thing that worries me a bit about Chelsea is there's lots and lots of players in there, all really talented players, but it feels like they're just not gelling. Or it feels like, we saw what happened with Graham Potter. He came in and it's like he couldn't handle the squad. And I thought with Poch coming in, that'll change, but it doesn't feel like it has changed.
Chris, you know what's crazy? Potter will do a better job than Poch. That's the crazy part. He would do a better job than Poch with this squad right now, because Potter, he struggled because a lot of those players last season didn't want to be at the club anymore. A lot of those players didn't respect him, so he was scared to drop a lot of them. Like Ziyech, remember Ziyech, Charlie, when Ziyech was on the verge of joining PSG? This guy was in France, right?
His deal fell through last minute. The guy was starting the next game. Fulham at home, I think it was on a Friday night. Guy was back in the starting lineup when he was literally about to leave, but we messed up the faxing stuff. Do you know what it is on Potter, right? Like, do you remember when everyone said, Potter's the problem? Do you know what? Hindsight's a great thing, but actually, it just goes to show he wasn't. He was dealt, as you touched on, mate, he was dealt a shocking hand in terms of, he didn't give him the preseason. Like a 40-plus man squad, half the guys that don't even want to be there, players taking the piss out of him. But the reality of the situation is, and I said this, I think after the Brentford game, we wouldn't be, I'm not saying we'd be in a better position, but we 100% wouldn't be in a worse position if Potter was still here now. There's no way we'd be worse than 11th in the table right now if Potter was still here. So like, I think you've got to be careful what you wish for to a certain degree. I understand people's frustrations with the manager, and he has to do better. And there's a lot of things that he's not doing right. But I also sort of think about it, and I think, how many times can we keep starting again and ripping this project up and going with another manager? Because who's to say, right? Let's say Poch goes at the end of the season, right? Because he's not going to go now because it's pointless. But let's say he goes at the end of the season, right? And let's say Ruben Amorim comes in, for example, right? I don't believe we'd be able to get him anyway. There's much bigger jobs available. Chelsea's not the attractive proposition, and you can't say no to it job that it used to be. Who's to say that the fans then aren't going to start calling for his head at the first time of a poor run of results? Like, I think we've got we're at a point where, for me, if as an ownership, you've chosen to go down this route of a long-term project, you've preached this long-term project, right? And look, I feel they've neglected the short-term too much, and they focus too much on the long-term, and their approach has not been conducive to short-term results. But when you come in and you put a squad together the way that you have, and you set out as a long-term project, like, you have to back yourself and believe in the route that you've gone down, and believe in what you're doing. And we are going to have to reach a point as Chelsea where we do actually stick by a manager. I'm not saying blindly stick by a manager if it's obvious it's not working and the results are crap and there's no signs of improvement. But we are going to have to get to a point where we do actually back a manager, and we, as a fan base, I'm not saying obviously everyone in the fan base, but you get, like, as a fan base in general, we need to find a situation where, and get ourselves into a position where every time we go through a poor run of results, we aren't just calling for the manager's head, because otherwise we're never truly going to progress as a football club to where we want to be. I still think there's too many people that think this is Chelsea of old, or they can't remove themselves from the last 20 years. The reason why we could just bin off managers left, right, and centre and still win is because we had the best squad in the league, or one of, and the league was nowhere near as competitive. So for me, I just think, look, absolutely, manager's not done good enough. Absolutely, he's not endeared himself to the fans with the way that he's acted and the way that he's managed and whatnot. But having said that, we need to get to the end of the season with him. I believe we will, because it's pointless making a change. We learned that last season with bringing Lampard in for 10 games, that there was no point doing it. We're at a similar situation now. I think the best...
No, we're not, Charlie. We're not, man. We've got something to pay for, bro.
No, we've got something to pay for. But what I'm saying is, who would come in for 13 games right now and take this job?
Me and you, bro. Let's go do it, bro. I'm telling you, we'll do a better job. We'll do a better job. I promise you, we'll do a better job than this guy. Because honestly, bro, it's like watching a guy that's a novice, yeah.
Just on that, mate, what do you think about what I was saying about, at some point we're going to have to get to a situation where we do actually stick by a manager? Because what do you feel like? Let's say Amorim comes in. Right? I'm not saying like he would come in, but he's obviously a popular choice amongst fans. What would you say if we found ourselves next season after the first 10, 15 games and we're down in 8th or 9th? What happens then?
Bro, what it is, we've got to see some level of performances on the pitch, right? That's where the fans are going to get a little bit of confidence, a little bit of belief, a little bit of trust in the manager and the process, right? You want to use this word process or whatever. Yeah. You have to see something. We can't just blindly follow something which isn't making sense. And even when we beat Newcastle, in the Carabao Cup, when Mudryk came on and scored that goal, I was fuming after that game. I said, we've got away with it today because we weren't that great, right? If we keep playing like this, it will not be sustainable. And what happened shortly after that? We kept holding beatings, bro. After that, we lost to Liverpool after that. Do you know what I'm saying? This guy was playing Caicedo in a lone 6 by himself, Enzo in a 10, just doing crazy stuff. Do you know what I mean? And one thing that I've spoken about with this manager, Charlie, throughout the whole season is his lack of bravery, right? And that goes down to his mentality. Yeah? Let me just read you guys a little quote from when we played Brentford the other day, because me and Charlie was at the Brentford game together. We were sitting together, and was all singing "Fuck Off" Maurizio. Charlie was singing it as well. I was singing it as well. Do you know what I'm saying? But let me read this quote from Thomas Frank. This is coming from him. Yeah. They played a back three for the first 4 games of the season, then played a back 4 for 21 games in a row. Frank said of Chelsea. They have all their key players available and they change suddenly for us. Why? Do they fear us? Do they think we're good? I don't know, but that's interesting. Yeah? And that's coming from Thomas Frank, right?
I agree. It was a strange decision.
Bro, I was fuming. I called Alex, big up Alex, Chelsea Fan TV, before the game. When I saw the extra defenders, I thought, wait, what's going on here? Right? Because before the game, Thomas Frank came out and said Brentford haven't got a single starting defender starting. That should have been alarm bells.
Bro, and they've lost 10 of their last 12 league games, and we turn up showing them extra respect.
They lost 10 of their last 12 games. Yeah, right now, Brentford. We haven't beaten Brentford in 2 seasons, by the way, guys, for your own information. We haven't beaten these guys in 2 seasons. Yeah. So I was looking at it like, cool, we've got attackers right now. Just go for the kill. If we lose like that, I'd rather lose playing brave football than scared football, right? So when I saw that we had 2 attackers on the pitch, I was fuming. I couldn't understand it. I'm watching the game the first 15 minutes in the cab. I'm seeing side-to-side football. These lot aren't used to playing in a back 5 because we've barely played it. As you've seen, he said 21 games in a row, we have not played a back 5, right? But he decides to go to it against a team that are just going to sit back most of the game. Do you know what I'm saying? So it didn't really make any sense to me. And that goal that Jackson scored, again, was from individual brilliance. That's what's been happening, theme of the season. The players find a little bit of brilliance. Cole Palmer here and there. You know, Jackson here and there. Enzo here and there. Do you know what I'm saying? It hasn't been sustained football. And I'm watching the game in the second half. I'm looking at Charlie and these lot. I'm seeing Enzo playing left wing. I'm seeing Cole Palmer in the first half right wing. Second half, he's playing up top. Then he's dropping into midfield. Then he's going left wing. I'm seeing Gallagher right wing. I'm looking at it like the pitch is small, Charlie, isn't it? Brentford's pitch is small.
Yeah, no,
it's very clear to see. I'm looking at it like, yo, what is going on with the shape? And I could see it constantly. They were attacking us and pressing us and pressing us. And this guy was just sitting there not doing anything. Guess what? They scored. Then now we're losing 2-1. And then all of a sudden you see Mudryk. All of a sudden you're seeing Sterling. Do you know what I'm saying? Reactionary.
He's right. You know, we go 2-1 down. This is what I mean about reactiveness and not reading the situation and not preempting what's going to happen. Is as soon as we go 2-1 down, he brings Mudryk on, right? And we switch back to the system we've been playing all season, and we probably had our best spell in the game. Why did we wait so long for that? Another thing before we move on is that, you know, we talked about after that game about the midfield's knackered. That's why I had to take Enzo off. I was like, mate, look, I get it. We've got injuries, no Lavia and whatnot, but you called Casadei back from loan, right? Didn't even use him. You've got academy kids there, like Castledine, who's having a good season in the 21s. Liverpool and Nottingham Forest away, right? They finished in midfield with Bobby Clark and Joe Gomez, right? Yeah. And you're telling me that we haven't got players. Like, don't give me that excuse. We haven't got players. We have got players. If you don't want to use them, come out and say, do you know what? We don't trust these guys. I'm not using them. Don't treat us like mugs and say we haven't got players. You sent Andre Santos on loan to Strasbourg to sit on the bench. Could have done a job for us. Casadei recalled, as I said, not using him. Castledine in the academy, not using him. There are talented kids there and there are options there and there are choices. And he's not been brave. I get it from a Jurgen Klopp position. You've got more license to be brave because you've got money in the bank for what you've done at Liverpool. You're in a much different position. It's easier to come into a team that's playing well as a youngster than it is to come into a struggling side. But at the same time, don't like Poch. I think he's been a bit of a coward in terms of certain selections. These guys can definitely do a job. But he obviously clearly doesn't trust them and he's not being brave in his decisions. And I get it, you know, it's hard to be brave when you're under pressure. Like, it's easy to just go with experience and chuck in a Sterling or whatever than a young kid. I get it. But don't come out and say you don't have options, because there's options there. You're just choosing not to use them.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, Charlie, you got like insanity is trying the same thing over and over again, and it's not working, right? He's insane. He's lost his marbles, and from the start of the season, I said this guy's digging his own grave. Yeah, I said if he carries on playing people out of position and not being brave, we will not finish top 6. I said this in the summer. Yeah. You know what I'm saying, when it was still hot, and look where we are right now. We're sitting 11th. This whole thing right now, I know we've got young players and everyone says Chelsea fans overrate their players. It's your players that are bad. It's this and that. Like I said, it's a combination of everything. But our situation right now reminds me a lot of Steven Gerrard last season. Yeah, when he had those bunch of players in 17th or 18th. And I was looking at that squad thinking, yo, how are these lot where they are? Like, it's definitely not the players. I have to look at the manager. Look at Emery. He comes in, brings in a few signings, you know, here and there. And look where they are. They're miles ahead of us, bro, right now. Miles ahead of us. So people need to realize how important it is to bring a competent manager. This guy has been below par. And it doesn't feel like he's been managing for as long as he has been, because some of the mistakes I've seen him make numerous, like consistently, have just been unbelievable. That's the best way to put it. Even now, thinking about it, it's been unbelievable. Unbelievable. In the final, how can you literally have these guys on ropes? Yeah, Charlie. I was sitting there at Wembley. I was at Wembley with you guys. Bro, I'm sitting there thinking, yes, we're about to win this trophy. Yeah, these are on ropes. He told us not to sit back in extra time.
No, the drop off in extra time was unforgivable. It was. I can't remember what I was going to say now. Oh yeah, like I get your point that we should be doing better, but I also think, right, is the setup and the environment at Chelsea and the culture right now and everything surrounding the club, is that actually conducive to any manager being successful? Because for me, until the sporting directors change and our top class directors are brought in, ultimately for me, I don't think it matters who the manager is. We're going to have the same problems until the hierarchy changes. So for me, irrespective of if Pochettino goes, I don't see any manager truly being successful at this football club until the sporting directors change and more quality is added to the first team squad. That for me is the big thing. Like, if you're going to get rid of the manager, the sporting directors must go as well. And it doesn't look like the ownership are prepared to get rid of those directors. You already see this Sam Jewell guy's going to come in and he's going to be reporting to Win Stanley and Stewart. So, like, for me, we can call for the manager to go. Fans can say get rid of the manager. Ultimately, in my opinion, nothing's going to change until those directors are gone and we get in a top-class sporting director. And given the culture, the way the club's set up right now, I don't see any manager being successful here. Look, all right, another manager might have us better than 11th, but another manager in these circumstances, in this setup as the club is right now, is not doing an awful lot better than we're doing right now. That's how I see it.
That's fair enough. And Pete, just to bring you in a little bit, bro, like
I was gonna say time.
Yeah, we're taking time out. We're taking time out.
I told you, I warned you at the start of the session. I said it's a therapy session. You know what I'm saying? I did tell you, my bro. You know what I mean? But Pete, let me ask you from an outside point of view, bro, because I haven't really heard much from you tonight, right? Looking at it right now, obviously, a lot of the mistakes that have been made, do you think right now, from your point of view, it's too far gone where mistakes can't be rectified?
What, for Chelsea?
Yeah, for Chelsea, yeah. Do you think it's too far gone where mistakes can't be rectified?
Honestly, and look, I've had a chat with Charlie about this with regards to Chelsea. You remind me so much of Man United just after Alex Ferguson left the club, in that you are in this cycle now where you've got a new manager in, you're bringing in all these players, and you've spent over $1 billion on bringing all of these players. It's not worked because, in my opinion, you brought too many players in. I said it to Lewis before, over a year ago, when you were kind of like buying all these players. I said, you're buying too many players, you're bringing too many players in, it could have a knock-on effect. It normally does at a club. And it's not worked. And then all of a sudden, what happens? The manager loses his job. The new manager comes in, and all of a sudden, you're going to spend another shed load of money because that manager doesn't necessarily want those players. It's the same with any manager. A manager comes in and wants to work with his own players. And although you've got quality players there, I look at your players, and you're a bunch of individuals. You are a bunch of individuals. You don't play as a team. Individually, on paper, you've got some quality players. Chris, you'll know. Malo Gusto, we were linked with him. Badia Shield, before we got Botman, we were linked with him. Conor Gallagher, we've been linked with him for God knows how long. You know what I mean? Exactly. We've been linked with so many of your players, and they're clearly good players because top clubs are looking at them. And you think, why is it not working? And the problem that I think you've got now is that you're going to get yourself into a cycle very similar to Man United. And the reason being is because I do think it's literally being geared up. And I know Pops in the chat saying De Zerbi is looking like he could well be the guy, and many a team will want him. But you are looking like, the way it's going, that Poch is going to go. And then you're going to get a new manager in. But what if it doesn't work next season? You guys are going to be still here, as frustrated and as annoyed as you are right now. And at some point, whether Chelsea fans want to believe it or not, at some point, those Chelsea fans are going to go, this ain't working. This ain't working. He needs to go. And then all of a sudden, cycle, rinse and repeat. Same thing is happening over and over again. And you're going to get into a Man United cycle. You may win a trophy here and there, but you're not going to get into that consistently fighting at the top table, winning the amount of trophies that you did for the 20 years that you had Abramovich. You're gonna get into that cycle. And I said I think I mentioned it to Charlie separately, and I said, you might not like this, but you may need to keep hold of Pochettino and take him into a new season, because you're going to give him another season to buy and try and rectify this situation, buy players that wants to play his style, and then go, right, here's another season, go at it. And it might not be what you guys want to hear, but it could well be the change in that he's had an opportunity to go again with this team, because those players will know that he's here to stay. He's not going anywhere. He's here to stay, and you're going to play with his philosophy and your style. And you know what? If you don't like it, we'll move you on. Chelsea, the best sellers in the Premier League. We'll move you on. We'll get money in, and we'll go and get someone else that wants to do it. And at that point, when you've got a club that has that mentality about your manager, about your players, at that point, players will start to think, yeah, maybe I need to step it up here, because I ain't going anywhere. And if I don't play for this manager, I'll end up being on the bench. So then you see a different you'll see a different performance from some of these players. And like I say, you might not like it. And I know you don't want Poch, you want him out. And look, Lewis, I remember when Poch came in, he was pro Poch. He couldn't wait for him to come in. And now he's like, get him out of my club. You're just going to get that cycle. It's just
the thing is, though, Pete, I fully, I agree with a lot of what you've said, right? But the only thing with me and Poch is the fact that the players that we've got don't suit what he's trying to do. Like, Poch is trying to do this rock and roll Liverpool type of football, right? This is why Gallagher's his key player, right? Gallagher's improved a lot because of it, right? Everything's all around Gallagher. And I'm sure you guys know that Gallagher's got limitations to his games. And for a team like Chelsea, he should not be playing week in, week out. But we find him playing week in, week out because the manager loves him and he loves those sort of players. But in terms of the sort of players that the sporting directors and Joe Shields are looking at, these are players that want to play closely together. You know, these are quite technical players. If you look at the Lavias, the Caicedos, the Enzos, you know, Gusto, for example. I know Gusto can run all 90 minutes in that year, but a lot of the time they want to play proper football. And that's exactly why I spoke to Dan. I was messaging him the other day. That's why personally I would like De Zerbi, right? I'm skeptical about him off the ball because Brighton, off the ball, they do press quite high and you can counter them, you can get at them. And that's why they hold a lot of smokings here and there. Like Aston Villa 6-0. Today they lost, is it 3-0 they lost tonight? 4-0 tonight. They can be those sort of results because at the end of the day, how he plays is high risk, high reward. But we need a manager that knows how to use the sort of players that we've got. And for me, Pochettino doesn't. And that's why over the season, he's misprofiled so many of them. That's why he thinks Caicedo's a lone six. But when you watch Caicedo at Brighton, he always had someone next to him. You know, McAllister, Gross next to him. You know, Enzo Fernandez playing as a 10. Enzo Fernandez playing as an 8, leaving Caicedo by himself. You know what I'm saying? Bringing on Nkuku as a lone striker time and time again and seeing that it's not working. You know, I'm not surprised that Nkuku's injured again because he keeps misprofiling him and playing him in positions where he's not comfortable. You know what I mean? So for me, Poch, he is not going to get the control that he wants in terms of bringing in his own players because at the end of the day, we've had a problem for years where we had a number of players from multiple managers, your Sarris, your Tuchels, your Lampards, all in one team, and it doesn't work. And Man United are having that problem right now. So we need to look at making club signings and making sure that we can bring in a manager that can work with the players that we've got. Like, for example, if Poch was to get sacked today, we're not going to go and look at Conte, right? Because the type of players that we've got don't want to play that low block football. They want to go at teams, right? And when you've looked at how we've performed against teams like Man City haven't beaten us this season, you know. Both games we've drawn against them. For the 4-4 at the Bridge, one of the best games that I've seen my whole time of watching the Prem. Do you know what I mean? We went toe-to-toe with them and their title challenges. They just finished winning the treble. You know, Arsenal, they came to the Bridge. They thought it was going to be a walk in the park. We nearly beat them if it wasn't for Sanchez having a brain fart moment and giving the ball to Declan Rice. Majority of that game, we were better than them. You know, Liverpool first game of the season, we went toe-to-toe with them. We didn't even have Caicedo for that game. You know what I'm saying? So these players have shown that they're good players and they can turn up against the big boys. But the problem has been consistency against the lower level teams because this manager hasn't been setting them up correctly. Do you know what I mean? These are young players, end of the day. And the way he's been treating them as if they're seasoned pros and they can just play wherever. You can't do that at a club like Chelsea right now because we haven't got the players for it. You know, these guys they need to be fed like babies. You need to play. Okay, you're a left back, you're playing left back. Okay, you're a centre back, you're playing centre back. Okay, you're a striker, you're playing there. You know, not playing a striker left wing, not playing a midfielder at centre back, not playing this guy over here. It doesn't make any sense with a young team. Do you know what I'm saying?
And that's where the experience needs to come in. And that's where the experience needs to come in, because what you need is an experience. You've talked about it, an experienced ownership. You need an experienced sporting director to go, you know what, we need to add experience to this, because Chelsea are the best. We've seen it, Chris, over the years, haven't we? Like, they've brought the best young players in all the time. They always get the best, and they always pay them the best. Casado, Gusto, all of these boys that you've talked about. But you can't be successful on a bunch of young players. We've talked about it, Chris, haven't we, at Newcastle? We've signed loads and loads of young players and these next up-and-coming players, but we need the experience to be there to be able to guide them. But this is the point that I'm making, Dom, is that if you go back to ripping up the project under Poch and getting another manager in, you'll go back to the same thing. Whereas if you went and said to Poch, right, we need to add some experience to this team to guide these young players through to make them better players, and he goes out and gets a few 26 to 28-year-olds or 28 to 30-year-olds that have got the experience to the experienced heads to get around these young players, maybe, just maybe, you'll see a different team. But like for me, I'm not going to, and Chris, like, I'm not going to complain. We're not going to complain, because Chelsea being down there right now means that there's a space for us. And it means that there's a space for West Ham, and there's a space for Aston Villa, and there's a space for Brighton. You being down there gives us the opportunity. So for us, we're kind of saying, you know what, keep doing what you're doing. You're in a position now where we want you to be. So as long as you're down there, we're away from things. Looking at the table now, like you're 11th, you're 4 points away from us. You know, it looks like a massive must-win game at the weekend, like on Monday for you guys, more so than anything. And you know, the pressure will be on, because you know, if you go 7 points or so away from us, like you're the chasing pack.
Oh, he has to get sacked. If we lose on Monday, I'm sorry, Charlie, sack him.
We won't qualify. We're like, if we lose on Monday, like we're not going to qualify for European football via the league. No chance if we lose. I still think FA Cup's our best chance. I know we're in essence, we're 3 games away from Europa League football. I get it. It's going to involve 2 trips to Wembley, a cup final, a likelihood of having to face Man City or Liverpool again. But that for me represents our best route. We seem to be better in cup games. And for whatever reason, we seem to turn up in those ones. You don't need the consistency you require week in, week out in the league. So that for me is our best opportunity. But this game Monday is massive. Home form has improved this season for sure. It's much better than it was last season. We've got 5 of the next 6 games at home. So yeah, it is time to put some points on the board. But yeah, let's make no mistake about it. Newcastle, decent side, good players. It's going to be difficult. We saw when they come to us in the Carabao Cup, like, you know, if it wasn't for Kieran Trippier's last-minute mistake, we would have been dumped out of the cup.
Mate, we've got injuries as well. I'm not confident at all for Monday. We've got more injuries now. We've got Levi out.
Chilwell as well. Chilwell and Colwell both missing. And Gallagher. And Gallagher's had a virus this week, hasn't trained at all, so don't know if he's going to play or not on Monday. So, yeah, there's going to be 2 or 3 changes minimum that they're going to have to be made to the team again.
Yep. Wow. And when there's changes to be made, and this guy's got to think, he just doesn't know what to do, man. Honestly, he's not a good problem solver. That's why, for me, he hasn't showed me anything where I would trust him with his own players or even players from the club next season. I just don't have any trust in this manager, right? Like you said, we need to bring in 3 or 4 experienced heads next season. Definitely bring in a striker, because we're missing a striker in this team. But we need a new manager. We cannot carry on next season with Pochettino as our manager. No,
I'm just interested to see whether there's any wriggle room from the directors in terms of the recruitment strategy we've gone down. You know, we've seen the manager say he wants more experience. As fans, we acknowledge we need more reliable pros, more match winners, more players with game-winning know-how. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at the players we've been linked with recently. None of those lot are ticking the boxes of experienced professionals or guys that can come in and make an impact right now that we need. I'm seeing stories yesterday. Nico Williams, a 21-year-old winger.
Quality.
That's good player, but that's the last thing we need. Why do we need another young wide player? You don't need him, Charlie. You don't need him. He needs to go further.
Charlie, the thing is, if you are gonna go down the young route, I get what you're saying. We do need more experience, yeah. But if you are gonna go down the young route, don't go by Mudriks that are really raw. Go and buy me young players that are polished, yeah, like a Cole Palmer, like a Gusto, like a Nico Williams. These are the sort of young players we should be buying. We shouldn't be buying young players where you've got to do all this work from the ground up. You know what I'm saying? Like Mudryk, we've got a lot of work to do on him. You know, a lot of work. You know, who else? Madueke. There's a lot of work to do on Madueke as well. If we're gonna buy these young guys, make sure that they're at a level where it's like, okay, they can play in the Prem right now, but they can get even better. If that makes sense. You know
I think also, just lastly, like we have to, as a club, we have to provide an environment that is going to allow these players to actually get anywhere near reaching their potential. Like there needs to be the right culture around the club. There needs to be the right environment for these players to actually be a success. I'm not sure right now Chelsea culturally or the environment is going to be conducive to a lot of these players being a success. But despite what people say about the manager, it's quite clear from what a lot of the players are saying. They really like playing for him. And whether that's because people think, oh, he's a soft touch and they can get away with stuff or whatever, like the guys that are seeing him day in, day out are they say that like they enjoy playing for him. Cole Palmer the other day said, you know, he thinks Pochettino is a top manager. He enjoys playing for him. He gives him a freedom and whatnot. So look, maybe that holds some weight in terms of, you know, a potential ownership decision. But yeah, the players.
Man, no, Charlie. Let me remind you. You know, in school,
they do enjoy playing for him. I'm not saying we should keep him for that reason
because he's their friend. Because he's their friend. They don't respect him, right? They've got no respect for the guy on a higher level, right? Remember in school, you used to have a substitute teacher. Like when your teacher's not there, when your teacher's there, sorry, no one messes about. But when they're off sick or they're just not in for whatever reason, and there's another teacher that comes in, everyone messes about. Yeah. Prime example. Look at Jackson. Yeah. He ran onto the pitch when he was on the bench. Yeah, to celebrate with the team.
Palace. Yeah.
Ended up getting a yellow card. The guy is on the verge of being suspended for 2 games. He needs one more yellow to be suspended for 2 games. Whatever people think of Jackson, he's important in how we play. Yeah, for me, he shouldn't be starting week in, week out. But again, that's the owners for buying him and not bringing in another striker. That's not on him. Yeah, because I think he's good in how we play, right? And I think he can get better. But again, discipline. Pochettino came out and said that's good that he did that. You know, I can't see a single player doing that at Arsenal or Man City running off the bench and getting themselves booked. You know what I mean? So for me, I just feel like this guy is too much of a friend. I don't see that authority from him. You know, the other day I see him when Sky Sports came to the ground, he's going over there, oh, hi guys, shaking their hand and doing all of that. Listen, cool, you're a friendly guy. I hear all of that. But end of the day, I need a manager that can come in here and stamp the authority on the team and not think that the players could just get away with being delinquents. End of the day, that's what they are. These lot are young delinquents, you know, and he's letting them get away with murder too much because he's too nice, you know. So I'm tired of that, Charlie, as well. I'm tired of that, bro. I'm tired.
No, I hear it.
We'll park this here. We'll say time out for just a second. What I want us to do, we've changed tact in what we're going to do. So we're going to get into the game a little bit. We're going to talk about both teams and what we expect. We'll talk tactics and we'll get you boys together, Charlie and Don, to pick your starting 11 for Chelsea, and we'll do the same. But before we get into it, we'll give you guys a chance to have a little drink, chill, rest up for a second, because we've got some stats for you.
Good evening, lads.
And like magic, he appears. Keith, how you doing, man? The 00 Stato, the stat man's in the house. How you doing this week? And of course, what stats have you got for us? Chelsea away, Stamford Bridge. What you got for us this week, mate?
Yeah, all good here. Got loads of stats here for Newcastle and Chelsea. Some head-to-head stats to start off with. Newcastle's all-time record in this fixture. They've played Chelsea 175 times. They've won 56 games. They've drawn 40, and they've lost 79. Head-to-head in the Premier League, similar stats: played 57, won 15, drawn 13, and lost 29. And the head-to-head in the Premier League at Stamford Bridge, played 28, won 1, drawn 7, and lost 20. So Chelsea have only lost 1 of their 28 Premier League home matches against Newcastle.
So that was that Papis Cisse Worldy day, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
The one and only. The one and only.
I remember that yesterday, man.
We'll never forget that. We'll never forget the commentary either on that. Sadly, it's the only one in 30 years now. Yeah, Chelsea as well scored more fixed goals in this fixture, 85 goals compared to 53 for Newcastle. Chelsea have got a better defensive record in this fixture as well, with 26 clean sheets compared to 11 clean sheets for Newcastle. And Newcastle have only won 4 of their last 17 games against Chelsea, 4 wins, 2 draws, and 11 defeats. Moving on slightly. So since the last win at Stamford Bridge, with 2 wonder goals from Pape Cisse, Newcastle have lost 10 games in a row to Chelsea, and they've drawn 1, and they've lost 1 cup game on penalties in all competitions at Stamford Bridge, scoring just 6 goals and conceding 26 goals in those games. Moving on to the managers. Eddie Howe, his record as manager in games against Chelsea, he's managed 16 games. He's won 5, he's drawn 2, and he's lost 9. And against Wolves last week, Eddie Howe, he recorded his 100th win in the Premier League, making him only the 8th English manager to reach 100 wins in the Premier League. And Maurizio Pochettino, his managerial record against Newcastle, he's managed 15 games, he's won 8, he's drawn 1, and he's lost 6. Moving on to the players, Cole Palmer with 12 goals and Nicholas Jackson with 11 goals are Chelsea's top goal scorers in all competition this season. And Cole Palmer also has 10 goal scoring assists. Just adding to the conversation earlier about what an outstanding talent Cole Palmer is and how well he's doing at Chelsea. Whereas at Newcastle, Alexander Isak, he's scored 12 goals in his first 20 home Premier League games for Newcastle. Only Alan Shearer and Andy Cole with 21 goals each, and Les Ferdinand with 16 goals have managed to score more goals in their first 20 games at St James's Park for Newcastle. The keepers, Martin Dubravka, he's kept 3 clean sheets and 13 appearances in league games this season for Newcastle. And he's also managed 2 clean sheets in 9 games he's faced against Chelsea. For Chelsea, Robert Sanchez, he had 3 clean sheets in 16 games. And Dore Petrovic, he's managed 2 clean sheets in 11 games for Chelsea this season. And a general stat to round off with, Newcastle are looking to complete their first double over Chelsea since 1986-87 season, when Newcastle won 3-1 away at Chelsea with 2 goals from Andy Thomas and a goal from Peter Beardsley. And Stamford Bridge looked so much more different back then in the 80s than it does right now for Chelsea. And that rounds off the stats for tonight.
Great stats as always, Keith. Yeah. Not man. Definitely favoured Chelsea there, I'm not going to lie. But look, as 1 or 2 have said in the chat, we definitely owe you guys one from that Carabao Cup quarter-final, that's for sure. So we're definitely wanting some revenge, shall we say, off the back of that.
Chelsea, no, we owe you one for the, was it 4-1? Was it 4-1 or 4-0?
4-1, yeah.
Smashed 4-1, yeah.
4-1. Jesus Christ, man.
Well, you've already got your revenge because you went through to the you went through to the semis, but
that wasn't enough.
Revenge now.
That wasn't enough. That wasn't enough, Pete, man, because we didn't win the trophy in the end. And that day, like I said, that performance for me wasn't good enough. The penalties were good, but the performance wasn't, you know?
No.
According to Gary Neville, Chelsea bottled that final. according to Gary Neville, even though they lost 1-0 to a Virgil van Dijk goal. And let's face it, Liverpool are higher in the league and they're expected to win the league, but Chelsea somehow bottled that final.
No, we did bottle
Gary
it.
Neville.
We did bottle it, to be fair. We did.
Yeah.
Right, I got the tactics board up, boys. I'm going to let you pick your Chelsea team first. Talk me through who you think is going to start and what formation.
You know what's killing me? You know what's killing me, Charlie? He's got Malang Sarr at the bottom.
That's the old squad. I've just not updated it.
Forgotten man. Don't know where he is. I'd be shocked if we played a back three again. I don't think we will. So I'll just go back to our standard 4-2-3-1. Petrovic goes in goal. That's obvious. He's been decent. Defense is where there's a few decisions to make because obviously there's no Levi Colwill and there's no Ben Chilwell. So I don't know what Don thinks, but Chalobah's played the last few games. Do you think Thiago Silva comes in for this game, or do you think he goes Chalobah and Disasi as centre backs?
Is he finished?
Yeah, I think
Thiago Silva. Is he just not?
No, I don't think he's finished, but he's leaving at the end of the season. But yeah, I think he'll play for us again this season. I just don't know if this is the game for him to go back in. I'm not really sure, but I mean, we don't. Disasi will definitely be one of the centre backs, so he can go in.
Yeah, I think he will start Chalobah and Disasi. I don't see him putting Silva in such a game, man. I don't see Newcastle playing a low block against us. End of the day, I don't see it, Charlie. I don't
either. I think they should have the confidence, given how we're playing, to come out and have a bit of a go. They've got the players like Gordon, like obviously Isak up front, whether it's Almiron, Bruno in midfield. They've got the players where they can actually come and play a little bit and cause some damage. I mean, in terms of the fullbacks, like for me, we're either going to see this for me. There's two options here. He either plays Silva in the middle and then plays Chalobah right back, Gusto left back, right? Or we'll leave these two and he'll play Alfie Gilchrist at right back and Gusto at left back. Like for me, Cucurella's obviously not going to be ready to start this game. He's not played since December. You're not going to chuck him in. He might be on the bench. But how I see it, I think it will be Gusto left back, Gilchrist right back. We haven't got any other options.
I mean, Cucurella's been back. He was on the bench last game as well, wasn't he? He was on the bench last game.
He didn't make the squad.
Did he not make the squad?
No,
he was on the bench.
Was he on the bench? Was he?
Yeah.
He was.
He definitely.
If he was on the bench last game, then he has to start. Then
he didn't play though. But the geezer's not played since December.
I know, but needs must. Chilwell's injured now. How long are you going to keep holding him onto the bench? We just have to hope. We have to hope he plays Cucurella. We have to hope he starts him.
I think if it was me, I wouldn't be starting him because I just think it's too much of a risk in terms of how long he's played. But look, I think it'll be Gusto and Gilchrist as the fullbacks.
Cucurella was on the bench at the weekend.
He wasn't on the bench.
Yeah. Then Cucurella will start. Cucurella will start this game.
You think he's going to start him? Like I've been December.
I think we'll start because he's been training. He's been training, bro.
No,
like, how long we gonna keep holding on? These guys are professionals. End of the day, man. Like, If you're on the bench, you must be fit to an extent, So I don't. If he doesn't start him, that's going to be again another conversation we'll have. Pete, why are you not starting him again? You know what I'm saying? So.
What's your midfield saying, boys? What are you going for?
I'll be Enzo and Caicedo. Like there won't be any changes there.
It'll be Enzo Caicedo. I reckon he'll go with he'll probably play Palmer in the 10. Or maybe Carney's back now, but Carney he hasn't even been on the bench last game.
No, he's barely played. Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be Cole Palmer in the 10, I reckon. Then you'll probably play Sterling right, Mudryk left.
What do you boys make of Sterling?
He's got to go.
I'm not a fan of him, to be honest. He's just not been good enough. Ultimately, like you're getting the inconsistencies from Sterling, what you'd expect from your Maduekes and your Mudryks. Like this is someone that's on over 300 grand a week at the club. I think he's the highest paid player. When he joined, he said he'd come to be the main man, and he just hasn't delivered. It's as simple as that. Look, Gallagher's had a virus. He's not trained all week. I would be surprised if he started. I think Gallagher will be on the bench. I don't know what you think, mate. I wonder if we might see Palmer play on the right-hand side and maybe Mudryk playing that 10 like he did against Leeds.
And then Sterling left.
And then Sterling left, maybe.
He could do that. Yeah, he could do that. But
that's a possibility. But regardless of what area, of what position they're playing, I think that'll be the three behind Jackson.
Yeah, exactly. It seems to like Mudryk in the 10. He played him there first half against Leeds. And then last game when we played Brentford, he brought him on in the 10 again.
Like in that narrow 10 position,
Yeah, so he might actually play him there again, because to be fair, he has looked a little bit more comfortable there.
Well, it just gets him involved more and it gets him on the ball more.
Yeah.
And look, he's got ability. He has got a good range of passing. So yeah, look, I think that'll be the team. I mean, look, possible change maybe is that Cucurella don't start if he doesn't think he's ready, and Gilchrist will play. But other than that, I think, yeah, the team does pretty much pick itself given what's available.
He's got to start Cucurella. If you've got to take him off in the second half, do that. But
yeah, if you play him 60 minutes or something.
Yeah, this thing of just being overly cautious is starting to get annoying now, you know? Because if you put him on the bench last game, just start him. Just start him, man.
Yeah, he's definitely not ready for 90, but I think he could definitely play at least 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. Chris, talk us through the Newcastle team then. For once, we have options. Yes. Options to choose from. But what you go for this week, fella?
Okay, mate. I'll go with Martin Dubravka in goal.
Okay.
I think the centre-backs will be Botman and Shah.
Yeah. Clean sheet the weekend. It's got to be those two boys, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. I think right back is gonna be Tino Livramento.
I went for Kieran Trippier naturally. He's injured. But Livramento more than a capable replacement, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And then left back, I think, will be Dan Burn. I think he'll stick. Well, I'll say the same back four that finished the game. I'd say. I think he'll stick with that. In the holding position will be Bruno, as always.
Yep.
On the left, I think it'll be Joe Willock.
Massive for us.
Yeah.
Big
on the
player.
right,
good player.
I do expect Sean Longstaff to play on the right again, even though some people may say Miley, but I think it'd be difficult to change that midfield after the weekend. On the left, I would say Anthony Gordon.
Definitely.
On the right, I think Jacob Murphy keeps his spot.
Yeah, he did well. Did well at the weekend. Really well.
He did. And then through the middle, the main man, the goal scorer.
Yeah.
Alexander Isak.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. There's a lot of battles in all over the pitch there. Keith, what are your thoughts? In full agreement with Chris with his lineup?
Yeah, I think I'll bring obviously Livramento in for Trippier, for sure. I think really, I'd rather Longstaff in there for the experience over Miley. Really, Miley might figure in some part of the game maybe later on, but I think again your question mark is on that wing there with Murphy, but you can't deny I think he's did really well in the last game. So keep him in there on form. Maybe Miggy comes on late in the second half if you need that pace, if you need to stretch the game a bit.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking at some of the battles here on the pitch. I'm gonna. Let me see if I can do it. Let me go back to it. I'm gonna. What's going to be doing here? What's going on here? I'm gonna say these boys, Isak and Disasi. I think that's going to be a really, really interesting battle. I think physicality, Disasi's he's got it, but I just think pace and trickery. I just think Isak could, on the counter-attack, cause a crazy amount of problems. I know you boys have said Cucurella, but I think Jacob Murphy could get a bit of joy down there. I don't know what you think, Chris.
I was thinking the same as you, Pete. Like Cucurella, the lads have kind of made me feel a bit better now about that right wing position, and certainly, as Keith said as well, bringing on Miggy Almiron on 60-65 minutes running against Cucurella if he's still on the pitch. If he does end up playing longer than 45 minutes, I think that'll be a little a little opportunity for us, certainly, to try and penetrate down that side. I think both wing back positions will be interesting, actually, because we know how much Gusto likes to get forwards. So not just Kukurea, but Gusto, and then obviously it's about making sure that you trap back. And Anthony Gordon, he's blistering pace. So I do think that there is opportunities there for us to really get at Chelsea, especially at the wing back positions.
Because Gusto's he's up here, as you said, he's up here supporting, but you don't see Gordon here. What you see in most defensive positions is Willock coming across here, Bruno, Longstaff, and then when the ball breaks in around this area, just like at the weekend, this is what we did. This is how we picked off Wolves, is because Gordon doesn't get as deep as that to recover. He'll be around here at minimum halfway line, because when the ball breaks, he'll be wanting to be on the counter. And he's one of the fastest players in the Premier League, and that's where he causes those problems. And I just think it'd be the same with Murphy. Murphy comes deep, probably a little bit deeper, maybe around here to come and recover. But Longstaff does his job in here. But as soon as the ball breaks, he's gone. He's gone. And that's where I think we can really hurt them. These three boys here, Gordon, Isak, Murphy, they might not be on paper like the hottest trio of the three in terms of Premier League front three, but what they do is so effective because they're lightning quick on the counter, and that'll be interesting to see how sort of Chelsea manage that. But
that's where you've got Caicedo. Caicedo tends to screen on that side.
Here.
So he'll if you've got Gusto pressing forward like what he did before.
Yeah. So
he would screen that little area there between the ball and Gordon, basically. Yes, he would screen that area there, make sure that if anything tries to go through there, he's there to just sweep up. Because normally what you get in build up is Enzo will help Caicedo in build up, like past few weeks, and then he will go and join the attack. And then Caicedo is the one that usually stays behind, So for any loose balls and that come back, he will be the one that will just sweep up. That's why you see Caicedo give away fouls here and there, because he's the one that's trying to break up play. Even if I get my words out. So yeah, that is going to be a threat. I like Gordon. I've liked him from Everton days. I wanted him at Chelsea, to be fair. I didn't mind him at Chelsea, but not for the price that they were saying. But I do think that hopefully Caicedo will be able to nullify that threat there on the counter.
I think we've got to be careful from set pieces as well. I've seen Fabian Schär scored quite a few goals in recent weeks. Our record at defending set pieces and balls into the box is horrendous. We conceded a lot of goals from set plays and a lot of goals from crosses into the box. So the likes of your Botmans, your Shares, etc., the height of Dan Burn and whatnot, like you can definitely have some joy from set pieces, given how poor we've been at defending them, and also attacking set pieces as well. We've not been great either. So set pieces, we're going to have to be switched on, because otherwise, like Newcastle got players that will cause us problems. They've scored goals from set plays this season, a few of them. So yeah, they'll definitely be able to have success there. But I think in terms of like where we can get some success, I think like if Cole Palmer plays on that right-hand side, like you'd have to fancy Palmer up against Dan Burn to get a bit of joy there. I mean, Sterling and Livramento is a bit more difficult. Sterling for me just runs into players. He doesn't like his positional play is poor. But yeah, I think Palmer up against Burn, there can 100% be some joy there.
You know what? Now that you've spoken about the height again, this manager, when it comes to height, he overthinks. And then when that happens, you always see three centre backs, right? So don't be surprised, Charlie, if we see Thiago Silva, Disasi, Chalobah right back, and Gusto.
Yeah, that's what I think we might see, mate. I honestly think we might see Chalobah at right back, Gusto left back.
Just get him out, man. Honestly, get him out.
He wants him gone. But Chris, to be fair, that Dan Burn talk always comes up every week, doesn't it? And to be fair, it has foundation for sure, because he has struggled this season in situations. But we did see that protection there against Neto. He really did manage him well, Dan Burn and Willock in that little pocket there against Neto at the weekend. Are you as worried about Dan Burn being able to manage Cole Palmer? He's a terrific player, Cole Palmer. Like he's a top player. But are you as worried as maybe you were, as we were, about Pedro Neto last week?
Probably not, no. And I one of the reasons as well, and the boys may tell me I'm wrong here, but I think with Pedro Neto, he likes to get to the byline and really like try and whip a cross in or run towards goal from the byline. Whereas Palmer tends to drift in. I feel like Palmer's natural thing to do is to kind of drift in. So that's where Joe Willock would come in, especially for this game. I also think, you've already highlighted it, Pete, having Joe Willock back is huge for us because Joe Willock, he's got that legs, and that's what Dan Burn needs. He needs someone around him who's very mobile because, unfortunately, as good as Sven Botman is, he's not the most mobile of players. So having those legs around him is really, really important. And to be honest, with us having Tino Livramento as well on the pitch, it wouldn't surprise me if, we kind of switched things up and maybe put Tino on the left. I'm not suggesting Burn on the right, but we could try and bring on some, alternatives. If Burn's really, really struggling, it could be that we see Tino moves to the left and maybe he brings Kraft on for Burn and then puts Kraft at right back. I think Eddie Howe will have an eye on it because obviously we've been burnt, so to speak, in the past. But I do feel like with Joe Willock back in the team that I feel a bit more confident over it.
Definitely. Keith, anything to add before we wrap up the tactics board?
No, there's nothing really extra to add, really. I mean, it is going to be interesting to see how Cole Palmer, that sort of battle is one of the key battles that interests me for sure. And a few of the other in the midfield as well. Caicedo is always a player that's interested us as well, really, in terms of how he'll be doing as well.
You know what? I actually want to see Palmer. I want to do this. This is what I would do. Oh, wait, I can't stop it. Am I not with the? Oh, yeah. Okay. I ain't got control yet. All right. So I'd rather see Mudryk on the left, Sterling on the right, and Cole Palmer in the 10. Right. The reason why I say that is Cole Palmer. He's not a touchline winger. He likes to invert a lot.
Yeah.
Right. And up against Dan Burn, like I said earlier, when you've got a centre back playing fullback, you want to just keep him running. And that's something that Sterling can do on that side. Sterling would be on the right hand side, not Mudryk, and then stretch the pitch like that because off the ball, you guys do hold a good shape, And Stamford Bridge is a small pitch, so I don't want to see too much inverting. I need to see a variety of stretching the play and again that creativity in that 10 role. So now I think about it, I'd rather Sterling play on that right, Cole Palmer down the middle, and Mudryk on the left, just to stretch the pitch a little bit more.
That would worry me more, if I'm honest with you. That would worry me more as a Newcastle fan if you played that, because what I would see from that is that Cole Palmer would pick up the pockets of space, and that's probably on one downside, particularly recovery runs. If Bruno does play as deep as what he has done for the majority of the season, although saying that in games recently, because he is one booking away from a 2-match suspension as well as your Jackson is.
Caicedo apparently as well. I've only just seen that in the chat now.
Oh wow!
Apparently, he's a game away from a 2-game ban. Apparently,
I think Gordon's 2 bookings away from a 2-game ban as well. So we've got 2 teams full of delinquents in there, and they're causing all kind of mischief. But no, in all seriousness, like this is what we worry about. Is this just behind the midfield 3? And in between the centre backs is where we've had a lot of problems this season in players finding those pockets. Foden did it, De Bruyne's did it, Liverpool players have done it, whether it's Jota, Salah. They've all found these little pockets in there. We were much better against Wolves because we did sit deeper. And I do think at this point, and Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, or give me your opinion on this, we did it really well against Wolves in that we sat in deep, very, very close to the centre-backs. And we almost kind of invited you on with these boys in and around here, invited you guys to press right up, really push your team up the pitch. And then when we broke quickly. And he was in here into this pocket. He was in here into this pocket. In here, and we just broke so quickly. And for the first goal, Bruno Guimaraes makes like a 60-yard run from here into this position that gets the shot off into the goalkeeper. Isak puts it away, and we have got the ability to break quickly when we need to. And I've not even brought Joe Willock in there, who's our ultimate box-to-box player. And I do think it might happen again. I wouldn't be surprised. Don't be surprised to see a Newcastle goal, or certainly an opportunity where we hit you on the counter, a little bit like what we did in the quarterfinals where Callum Wilson had that sort of amazing run.
Radio Shield,
yeah.
And that was from you guys having corner after corner after corner, and you pressed us and you pushed for that goal, and then bang, we hit you on the counter. And don't be surprised to see that happen again, because we've got the pace now and we've got the ability, the quality of player to be able to do it. So it's definitely something to look at. But if no one else got anything to say, we'll come away from the tactics board. Yep.
Yeah, no, nothing else from me, mate.
Right. Just before we start to wrap up, I think I say there's a few questions. There's a load of questions and most of them are from your therapy sessions, boys. Chelsea therapy. Now, I don't know if we want to go there again, but Chris, I know there's a few questions to throw at these boys.
We can do it quick. We'll do it quick fire.
Yeah. Quick fire.
Yeah.
Just before we start, big shout out to Shane Mawson. He's been a member now for 26 months. So nice one for that, Shane. Hope you're well, mate. And also we had a super chat from Jimmy, good friends of the channel. Jimmy, thank you very much, mate. Much appreciated. And Jimmy says, I'm loving this. I think this was during the therapy session. I'm loving this. We're doing great compared to these guys. They deserve Southgate. I feel like that's a little bit harsh, but
no one deserves that.
No, Man United deserve Southgate.
Yeah, United deserve that.
He says he's not going to go to United after the Euros.
Apparently he's
Can you imagine that?
And you know what? Apparently he's got a great relationship with.
Well, he does, because Dan Ashworth was at the FA. Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Damn, I would love that.
I would enjoy that a lot.
Jimmy also fires another shot. He said, "Can my super chat go to the Chelsea debt fund?"
Aren't we debt free?
Yeah.
I don't know why is.
Yeah, Roman wiped all the debt. I mean, unless we've gone into more debt in the last 2 years, but he did. It was debt free when they bought
Jimmy,
it.
Be grateful as well. We're giving you Lewis Hall. We've given you Livramento. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've given you 2 good fullbacks, man. So respect. You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think
you know what?
With Man United there.
Oh yeah, actually, yeah.
That was an interesting plug in there, Dom, because that was one of the questions, and I'd love your boys' perspective on this. If I can find the bloody message, where is it?
So how many more games has Lewis Hall got to play actually to make it?
Mate, I've seen varying things. Like apparently, like the deal becomes permanent basically as long as Newcastle don't finish below 12th. Like then that deal's becomes permanent. Anyway, I don't think it's appearance based. Like whatever the criteria are, like. It's virtually impossible not to hit them. But yeah, the Lewis Hall thing is a bit weird. Obviously he's a Newcastle fan as a kid. I think his family are Newcastle fans. He's gone up there and you're thinking, yeah, young player, sort of guy that Eddie Howe will use a lot. And probably the same as us, you boys probably thinking, why is this guy not playing? Even when like Newcastle had all their injuries and stuff, he still wasn't starting games. He was getting scraps of minutes. I don't really know what's going on there, but I think there's virtually no chance that he ends up back at Chelsea in the summer. I think that deal is as good as done.
I'm taking him back. I had more time for him and Maatsen over Chilwell and Cucurella. I'm taking him back in it. So if you guys messed up somehow, listen, I'm happy for him to come back because he was meant to go Palace. And I was happy for him.
That fell through because of the whatever underhand business we've done over the Elise things. As soon as that dropped, the Elise thing drops, then the Lewis Hall thing just dropped as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Dom, I'm going to ask you directly. Would you take a Lewis Hall, Ben Chilwell swap?
Yeah. I don't want Ben Chilwell anymore, bro. He needs to get sold in the summer. Chris, he needs to go. He's injured again.
I'm going to ask you the same question. Would you take a Lewis Hall, Ben Chilwell swap? People in the chat as well.
I don't know. I mean, I've got to obviously take into account what the boys are saying over Ben Chilwell, and it's not
rely on his fitness, like that.
Not
that's
just Charlie and Dom.
And just his quality, man. He's just not the same player. This ain't the Ben Chilwell that was creating chances for fun. Him and Reece James before. When we had Lukaku and was top of the table in December. Ben Chilwell is gone. Yeah, he's gone. I
think there's a massive thing to be said as well for like that. I'm not saying he can't play in a back four, but the back three system suits him so much better. I was looking today, like in the 4 years, he's been at Chelsea nearly 4 years. he's missed almost half of the Premier League games in the time that he's been here. Like that's not good enough. Like, I'd rather have players that have got a little bit less quality but are actually available the majority of the time than having players that have got more quality but that can't keep themselves fit. So look, as good as Chilwell's been for us, like he has struggled this season. You know, a lot of long-term injuries he's had. You just can't rely on him, and that's a major problem.
The thing is, for me, it's the fact that he gets injured all the time and his quality. Like, in possession, you know, he's not as technical as Augusto, for example. When you look at Augusto on the right-hand side, you see Ben Chilwell on the left-hand side. It's night and day. I call the left-hand side grenade football. Yeah, because the ball comes to their feet and it blows up because he gives it away. You know, he's like a trigger for a press. He doesn't even overlap anymore. I don't know whether it's a tactical thing, but he's not doing the things that we liked from Ben Chilwell, you know, when he was coming through.
That was the mental thing, because his game was built at Leicester on overlapping football. That was what the game was built on.
So when we won the Champions
what it is in Poch's system, we normally have one of our fullbacks that go up high, like Gusto, for example, and then Ben Chilwell.
One pushes, one sits of it.
One sits, right?
You don't see them both bomb up.
You don't see them both bomb up. But Chilwell, even his final ball, Charlie, it's not. It's just he's getting worse. He's not going to get any better. He's not going to get any better. Put it that way.
I think that's fair to say. I think there's definitely I don't want to write someone off. He's still only 27, but I think it's fair to say that on the evidence we're seeing right now, he's not going to get to the levels he was at, when we were winning the Champions League and what we were doing under Thomas Tuchel. I don't think you're going to see that Ben Chilwell. So yeah, decisions to be made in the summer in regards to what left back comes in, and what you're going to do about the future of Chilwell.
I like you guys. You don't want him. Trust me. You don't want him.
Keith, are you in agreement with Don and Charlie? No Chilwell swap.
It's certainly some interesting points raised, and I do think that once you get the injuries, it can take a physical toll on you, and it can take that mental toll on you, which you hit it on, Pete, as well, with you're not necessarily going for the long bursts and runs that you previously did. Or make the challenge
back a little bit.
Mm-hmm. You're holding back, and there's another part of us in the debate that thinks as well that Lewis Hall hasn't had a fair crack of the whip at Newcastle, really, for whatever reason. If it's if we're led to believe it be a power struggle between Dan Ashworth and Eddie Howe on the decision of him signing for Newcastle and Howe not rating him, he's still not had that fair crack of the whip, really, which I think is unfair considering how well he played for Chelsea last season. So given where the two players are at, I wouldn't do the swap.
I was merely asking the question, Jordan Team for Life, not saying that I would take him, just merely, we like a devil's advocate question now and again, don't we, Chris? To throw into the mix. But sorry, a few more questions, mate. Go for it.
Yeah, well, I'm going to ask this one, and then I'm going to bring up a few more on screen because the question keeps going and going. So Tom Dixon asks, and I think the first part of the question is an easy one. So do you think Pochettino's under pressure? I like the second part of it when it says, who would you like to replace him when he goes? Now, I also want to throw in, because people have been throwing names out. So Yano says, guys, would you take Tuchel back? No. Somebody else says Craig Lee, Jose for Chelsea. No. Would you have Jose back?
Third time.
Nope, no way. That's just nostalgia talking there, man.
And then Dave Bowman says, if Poch goes, he sees it being De Zerbi or Amorim. But what are you boys thinking? If Poch left tomorrow, who would you go for?
Look, I'll be honest. For me, the managerial options out there, they're not that great. If we're being brutally honest, the managerial market is not amazing. There's going to be top jobs available this summer. Bayern, Man United potentially, Liverpool, Barcelona. Managers that we're potentially going to be looking at are also probably going to be looked at by clubs like that. And if we're being honest, those jobs are going to be more appealing than Chelsea is right now in the current guise the club finds itself in. So for me, I would say my choice would be Amorim, but I think we're going to find it difficult to maybe convince any managers to any sort of managers that are going to be an improvement to come in. So my choice would probably be Amorim. I know people like De Zerbi, but for me, I'd go Ruben Amorim. But again, there's not a great deal of choice out there.
Yeah, I think for me, I'd rather go De Zerbi. I don't really know much about Amorim. Like I've said, De Zerbi, he's worked with Mudryk before. He's worked with Caicedo before.
And Colwell.
He's worked with Colwell before. I just look at the players that we've got, very similar to Brighton. You know, a lot of the guys that are here are from Brighton. We've got this head scout from Brighton coming in. It just makes sense on paper, in my opinion. And we actually need a foundation first. A lot of people are trying to talk about trophies. It's like trying to move into a house after only drawing the floor plan. It doesn't make any sense. You need a style of play first, build on something, and then you can start thinking about trophies. And for me, I think De Zerbi can bring a style of play and help these guys and get the strengths, don't show too much of their weaknesses and show their strengths. You know, one thing I like about him is it don't matter who comes out of that team, they still play the same. You know, they still play the same. I was at the Bridge when we played them this year, Charlie. If you remember, they had their B team, bro. And most of that game, they bopped us.
Oh, was that a Carabao Cup game?
No, in the league.
Oh, the league one. Did we win that?
We won that game. Mudryk got that penalty.
We won 3-2, didn't we?
Yeah, we won 3-2, right? And that game was close as well. That game, I remember that game because I was there, right? And for me, this is if a manager can, you know, have injuries and still play the same way. To me, that's a good coach. You know, that's a guy that's very clear and knows what he wants to do, and he can show those instructions to the players. So for me, I'll probably say De Zerbi. But like I said, defensively, I'm just a bit skeptical. I think it's a little bit too open at times. I need to see him have a plan. I need to see him have more of a plan B. I've seen that with Alonso, but Alonso ain't gonna come Chelsea right now. That's the only problem. Alonso is not gonna come Chelsea right now. So for me, I'm taking De Zerbi in it. And if he's not the guy that's gonna get us over the line, then we can talk about getting a manager, like a winning manager. But for now, we need to build first, man. I think you can do that.
Yeah. No, it's fair enough, mate. It's fair enough. I'm gonna pair some questions together here because they all kind of link. So Dave Bullman says, question for the lads, and you've already kind of alluded to this, but I just wanted to mention this. So he says, do you think Chelsea spent well? Some great players, but ridiculously overspent on the likes of Caicedo, Mudryk. Bowley wanted them, so other teams couldn't get them. He's kind of acted like a spoiled kid. Ian Toontrader also says, do you think the 8-year contracts have caused players to take their feet off the pedals? And then the last one I wanted to ask, which kind of links in with this, is where is it? Yes, Tom Dixon says, how are Chelsea coping with the FFP situation? So bearing in mind all those players that you brought in, all that money you've spent. Firstly, do you think, you know, are you happy with the players that have been brought in? Firstly, second of all, would be, you know, how do you think you're dealing with the FFP situation? And
the club released their financial accounts today. I'm not going to pretend that I'm some sort of accountant, like a load of people are pretending they are on Twitter and understanding all the numbers and stuff. I'll be honest, I don't really understand it. I don't get it, really. You know, reports are suggesting that we need to, you know, raise £100 million by the end of June to comply with the 3-year period. That shouldn't be an issue. We've got Ian Martson, that's really going to be sold. Amanda Broja, Chalobah's probably going to leave as well. We've got Lukaku, who can be sold as well. I think there was a 35 or 37 million pound sort of clause built into his deal.
Lukaku, he's still at Chelsea.
He's still at Chelsea.
Yeah, he's still at Chelsea. Yeah.
He's what is going on?
So we can raise the money. I don't think that's an issue. But look, I'll be honest. I don't understand enough about the numbers to really give a qualified opinion on if we're in the shit or not. In terms of players we bought in, there's no denying we've massively overspent on a lot of these players. I think that's absolutely clear. Some of these signings are going to be good signings. I think you can already tell Cole Palmer, Gusto, Petrovic, Enzo Fernandez, Caicedo. These are going to be good signings for us. And I think the jury is out on a lot of the other signings. And I think it's clear that a lot of players that have been bought in are going to end up not being good enough for the football club. But I think to really get a real accurate picture of how good this business is going to turn out to be, we need to wait another season or two. Is kind of the reality of that situation, in my opinion.
Do you think Gallagher's going to be one of those sales to raise the funds?
He could be.
It could be. I wouldn't put it past this club with the way things are going. The ownership have been trying to sell him from the moment they took over. It's not materialised yet. Ultimately, though, they can want to sell someone. If he doesn't want to leave, he doesn't have to go. So he's on the contract until 2025. If they're not going to give him a new deal, he can stay and run his contract down.
One more year then.
He's got one more year. Yeah.
Wow.
It's either we sell him, or he signs a new contract.
Yeah.
Or he runs it down.
It won't be that 50 million then that you wanted for him.
No, we're not going to get. If they sell him
about 40,
get 45. Yeah, I think with a year left, we'll get 45.
Really?
Well, if he carries on playing as well as he has this season, for the
He's
remainder
performed well, hasn't he?
and I think we probably would get it.
Yeah.
One of the best pressers in Europe, apparently.
Yeah,
in terms of press and play.
But I think financially, look, I think we'll be all right. I think ultimately, at some point, you've got to put your trust in the people that do the numbers. Like, you can criticize these owners for a lot of things, but they are successful businessmen. I'd like to think that they'd get the numbers right, but I could be wrong.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then just this one here. Do you think the 8-year? Oh, go on, Chris.
Yeah, go on, mate. Yeah, I was going to say, so Ian Toontrader, do you think the 8-year contracts have caused some players, not all players, but some players to take their feet off the pedals a bit?
I don't really look at this team right now and see a lack of effort. That's the only thing. So it's hard for me to say yes to that one. The main guy that I see a lack of effort at times from is Sterling. You know, he just looks like his body. He looks like he's just there. He's won everything. He's in London now. Yeah, he's still earning 325k a week. Like, I see him sometimes. I'm just like, come on, we've got to move this guy on. So for that one, not yet. I don't think these guys aren't trying at this stage. I do think they care.
While we're on the subject of transfers, Tom Dixon says, do you think you'll break in the top 6? So that's the first part. And then the second part is, which player, if you had to nail a player now who's going to go for big money, which player would it be who you think will go in the summer?
For big money? Do you know what? I said, I can't remember what I said. I must have said this on a stream a while back. I don't think someone going for necessarily big money, but I think one of Mudryk or Madueke, whether it's on loan or permanent sale, won't be here next season. That's a bit of a hunch that I've got. I'm not really basing that on any insider information or anything like that. But I think one of those guys won't be here next season. But the obvious ones that will leave in the summer, I think Chalobah, Martson, Broja. Whether we get the money we think we're going to get for them is another question, but those guys will definitely go. But in terms of someone that might not be linked with leaving but could end up leaving, I think one of Mudryk or Madueke, whether it's loan or permanent, might not be at the club next season.
And do you think you'll get top 6, Charlie?
I'd like to think so. We'd be in big trouble if we don't. I'd like to say yes, given it'll be another year. Hopefully, we'd have added some more quality. Could be a different manager. I'd like to say yes, but with the way the project's gone so far at Chelsea, you can never be too confident. But I'd like to say that we would be.
Nah, you can't even say that yet, bro. We've got to see what business we do. We've got to see incomings. We've got to see what everyone else does. There's a lot. It's hard to answer that question right now because that would just be blind hope. I'll be real. Like, we've got to see what's got to be done in the summer, and then we'll be able to have a clearer indication if we can actually get there.
We're 4 points ahead of you, but we're 4 points off Man United, and they play Everton at the weekend, which at home, which you'd expect to win. I think West Ham have got Burnley at home, which they'd expect to win, and they're 2 points, I think 2 or 3 points ahead of us. So it's like we're chasing the pack at the moment, but you're behind us chasing kind of us. This is why I say this game's massive on Monday.
Really important. If we lose, we're not going to qualify for Europe in the league. I think if you boys lose, like, it doesn't. Obviously, it's a blow, but it doesn't completely rule you out.
Boys, I've got 3 more questions for you, and they only require one answer. So see what you think of these. Right. So I'll go to you first, Charlie. So forget money for a minute. Which Newcastle player would you take in your team right now and why? Well, one player.
Isak, because we need a goal scorer.
Yeah.
Don?
I'm taking Gordon, man. I think he should be starting for England.
You could have had him.
Yeah, we could have. But 60 million though, man. 60 million. I said that's crazy. Yeah. That is crazy, man.
But isn't that your own problem because of the amount of money you were spending at the time? That's why they slapped the 60 million down. and then we ended up getting him for 45 because you went mad in that summer, signing loads and loads of people for I think it was eventually Tuchel to begin with, and that's why I think they slapped the fee down what they did.
Yeah, well, Chelsea tax, isn't it? Chelsea tax, yeah. So yeah, I would say Gordon. Yeah.
Charlie, if Poch left tomorrow, would you take Eddie Howe if he was an option?
No, just because.
Yes,
I just don't think it would be the right appointment for us. I rate him. I think he's a good manager, but I don't look at Chelsea's situation now and think that Eddie Howe would be a good fit there. So no, I wouldn't. Yeah,
I wouldn't either. I think it's the structure how it is right now. It's too big of a job. So
yeah.
Not for me.
No, I think that's fair. To be fair, I think that's really fair. Actually, I totally get it. I do get it because it is this Chelsea job. It feels like you need a manager with real status, someone who can come in and really, is experienced and can really grab hold of the team. So I know what you're saying. I do get that. And then the last one, and I'm particularly interested in this one because I genuinely don't know the answer to this. Geordie Toon for Life asks, which club do you hate most in London? Is it Arsenal or Spurs, or is it another club? So I'll go with Charlie.
Arsenal, but like Spurs, obviously geographically are big rivals, but because they don't win anything, and we're not competing for trophies with them. They're sort of almost irrelevant. Whereas with Arsenal, they kind of now they've got a decent team. They could end up winning stuff. Their fan base is insufferable, which is why they just can't win the league. It'll just be unbearable. So yeah, for me, I definitely dislike Arsenal a lot more than Spurs.
Yeah, no, for me, I agree. Oh, listen, Arsenal, man, definitely Arsenal. I've got a bunch of Arsenal friends. I'm from East London, so I didn't really grow up with knowing Spurs fans. I knew like 2 or 3 of them, right? And as I've gone older, I know more now. But with content creating as well, I know a lot more now. But Arsenal fans, they are everywhere, man. They're just unbearable. Even over the years when we were winning stuff, they were still unbearable. You know what I mean? So, yeah, definitely Arsenal, man.
Fantastic. Well, that wraps the questions up, Pete.
Spot on, boys. It's been a great chat tonight. I'm not gonna lie, that therapy for you boys. Hopefully it's been useful, and you've been able to vent and get your opinions out there. But look, before we go, I want to get your predictions around the table. So, Chris, we'll start with you. What we're going for Monday night?
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I came in hopeful, but now I kind of feel positive because of the lads, particularly over the likes of Kukureya and the little meltdown before. I was quite enjoying it. I'm not going to lie. So I'm going to stick with my original prediction, and I did have a gut feeling that I think it'll be 2-1 Newcastle.
Okay. Charlie, what we going for, fella?
I'll be honest, mate. What we've seen recently from us, I can't really go in with confidence and back us to win. I think it'll be a 1-1 draw.
Okay, 1-1 draw. Dom, what we going for, mate?
I think we're going to lose 3-1.
Wow,
well, that would be dreadful. That would be a bad day.
Therapy take 2. That will be, that's for sure. But no, I admire the honesty with regards to that. I'm gonna stick with what I thought and what I said to you, Charlie. I'm right in the same ballpark as Chris. I'm saying Newcastle's gonna be a tight game, but we're gonna go with a 2-1 Newcastle win. Which then segues us now quite nicely to our Stato. Normally sits on the fence with Newcastle results and predictions, but what you go for, Stato, today?
Yeah. I honestly don't know what to think of this one. I think there's going to be loads of goals in it, that's for sure, with this game, because if you look at both teams, they've been scoring and conceding a lot of goals lately. So I think this could go either way. And I'm going to say that I've got a horrible feeling it could be 2-1 to Chelsea, but I can easily see it being a Desmond as well. It's one or the other. But I was thinking that I've got a bad feeling it could be a 2-1 to Chelsea because Chelsea need the win more. And we've seen Chelsea when they've needed a win, this season, like the game against Spurs at the new White Hart Lane. They turned it on then and everybody ruled them out for that game, so they can get results.
The only thing I just see too many things going wrong. I can see you lot getting a set piece, maybe even two of them. Like Charlie said, set pieces against Chelsea is like a penalty against us. We're bad. You know, I can see Poch messing up tactically at the back, you know, playing centre backs at full back. There's just so many things that I can see going wrong. So that's why I just can't see a Chelsea win at all.
We will see. We will see. But it always interesting from Keith is to be fair, Desmond is becoming your go-to. I'm not going to lie. Like, you've gone for quite a few Desmonds recently. But
like I say, 2-2 is the new 1-1 this season for Newcastle. Unfortunately, they're conceding them extra 1 or 2 more goals, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Definitely. But like, predictions are in, people. Get your predictions in as we head out, and we're just going to thank the sponsors very, very quickly. If you haven't already, just click the like and subscribe to the channel, all that good housekeeping stuff. And we say thank you to the Radiator Shed, Russ and the team, for your support on Loaded Mag, NUFC, and you can see just a few little samples of the quality radiators that are available. And we also say massive thank you to Bathroom Design Co. H2O. Thank you for your quality bathrooms. Again, just a few samples. There are a lot more coming as well. We also have to say, if you haven't already, we have announced the charity game, 29th of March at Forest Hall in Newcastle. We are up against Newcastle Fans TV. We're looking for the win. Nothing but the win, but it's all for a great cause, for the Alan Shearer Foundation. We are raising money for. So if you haven't already, check the link. There is a link in the chat tonight. Check the tweets from Loaded Mag NUFC. There we go. JustGiving.com. Go in, show your support. Whatever you can, and every little helps. You know, we know times are tough for lots of people up and down the country, but if you can support to raise money for a great cause, then please do. And thank you already for so many that have already donated to a great cause. Guys, been absolute pleasure to have you guys on. Charlie, as always, at Chelsea and Newcastle United. Just before we go, Charlie, Dom, where can we find you? Charlie, starting first.
Thanks for having me back on, guys. Pleasure as always. Literally my own channel, as it is on the screen on my display now at Blue Brother CFC. So if you like what I've had to say, please subscribe. It'd be greatly appreciated. Top stuff. And Dom, we've got your Twitter handle on there. We're working on the YouTube. We're going to be there soon.
Yeah, definitely. By the time I'm next on here, it will definitely be launched. But find me on Twitter for now at Greasy Don. And then you can just subscribe to my YouTube once I've launched it. I'll definitely send you the link for that, Pete, and then you can just plug me up a little bit, bro. But loved it today, man. Good chat. Thanks, Chris and Keith. Nice meeting you, my bro. Big up the Chelsea every time, man.
Definitely. And look, if you haven't seen them already, we've got a lot in the chat that watch the 12th man, and we know you're on there. Jordan 2 for Life is obviously put a few comments in there, so go and see Don on the 12th man as well. And look, Keith, always a pleasure, never a chore. Great stats as always. Always on the fence, but hopefully your predictions don't come in on Monday and we get 3 points. Chris, legend as always. The old Brandy and Blaze back in business. We didn't do it earlier because I wasn't planning on having a Brandy, but that therapy just made me think, you know what? I'm just kick back Thursday night, weekend come in and just chill and see it in. And that was the reason I was really celebrating. Is that West Ham losing 1-0. Happy days, Lawless will be crying tears, that I will be drinking. Life's good right now. But look, until then, we'll see you guys probably Monday if we win, Tuesday for the review. But until then, we do love playing away. Chris, take us home.
How'd you like that?
Take care, guys. Speak to you soon.
How you like